But what do you think about the quarterbacks? What did you take out of the end of the year commentary? I mean, the 49ers rarely tell you exactly how they feel about their players. They kind of like everybody until they part ways, and then it's like, well, maybe they didn't like that guy. What's your feeling on their thoughts on their quarterbacks going forward? Because it's when they did the presser, we didn't know about Brock's surgery. I guess we still don't know because the surgery is not going to be done until the 22nd, and then they won't know until after they actually get into the elbow exactly the full scope and procedure that they're going to do, which obviously impacts his ability to heal and get back. So we don't really have any concrete data there other than we've kind of been told that through Kyle that he's anticipating a 6-month deal. And it seems like there's other indications that also is what the expectation is. But where do you think they are with their quarterbacks? Do you think they're satisfied with the two of them, allowing them to kind of battle it out? Do you think that they'll make a move with one of them? I suggested in a quarterback article that they ought to listen on Trey if Brock was ready to go, just because I don't see Trey as the perfect backup to Brock in any world. I think Trey needs to play himself. And then there's a great article on Niners Nation right now listing quarterbacks that they may be interested in. And they've got Bridgewater, Heineke, Dalton, Brissett, Darnold, Jarrett Stidham listed as potential options in free agency. Crystallize the Niner quarterback picture as we sit here in the middle of February.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, no decisions are going to be made, certainly until that surgery happens. And the 49ers are pretty confident that it's that 6-month surgery that's going to allow Brock Purdy to be ready for training camp. So if it is that, if he's ready for training camp, then yeah, I think that list of quarterbacks that you just read off are about the type of veteran that they would bring in. I call it the Andy Dalton line. You've heard of the Mendoza line. This is the Dalton line. So we're talking about
is that the sub $5 million line?
Yeah, I think it's there's a definite line in the sand money wise that they're going to be willing to spend. But that's the type of guy, somebody that you could lean on if it came to that, but you'd rather not get there. So it's not going to be a huge name at that position, but they have to. I mean, it's going to require a body. I mean, I think that they're going to end up drafting a guy and signing one in free agency so that they have 3 healthy ones to go through the majority of the offseason. The question then becomes, okay, what if it is a longer deal for Purdy's recovery? Because he said it could be some sort of hybrid procedure. The doctor could go in there, see that it's not just going to be the internal brace procedure. It's going to be something a little bit more than that, which would require a much longer rehab. And so all of a sudden you're talking about bleeding into the regular season. And at that point, you have to wonder whether the team would go more expensive at that veteran spot. But I mean, in a way, and I know this is a bit of twisted logic, but a scenario where Trey Lance is the guy throughout all of the May and June and maybe early training camp practices is not a bad scenario, because that's what he needs. He needs all those reps. He needs, to be in there. He needs to be running the same offense that Brock Purdy was running. In my opinion, and I know I said something differently to begin the show, but they need to kind of force him into that pocket role just so that he learns it and masters it to the degree that Brock Purdy was running it in December and January. The only way to do that is to give him reps in that system. So it's not the worst scenario in the world to have Lance as your number one in the spring.
Greg Stillwell says, Larry, what does Matt think about your proposed Lance trade to the Titans for the 11th pick in the draft and Roger McCreary, the safety, the corner? To me, and I agree. Right now, you can't move anybody because you don't really know what anybody's physical status is, and it doesn't make sense. But if Purdy did come back, and you've heard some of the players say, hey, it's his job to lose, and there's And I don't need the players to say that to let me know that. I could see that he was the better of the two quarterbacks in the glimpses that I saw. If it is his job to lose, do you think? I mean, Trey's in a weird spot, Matt. So like he hasn't played, and he needs to play. And if Brock is just more efficient running this offense, and they're scoring 30 a game, and he's the starter, I mean, if I'm John Lynch, I think I've got to have a conversation with my quarterbacks and say, guys, please tell me if you lose this competition, you're going to be fine with it and be here and be present and be positive, or I may have to make a decision. And you know what I'm saying? It's like I just think that it's possible that Trey Lance could lose that job and his handler could come to John Lynch and say, hey, Trey wants to be out by the trade deadline. Find him a new home. And that's not going to be a good situation for the team. It will be a clear distraction. It'll be drama that they can avoid. I just think if I'm John Lynch, I want to have that conversation before camp and just kind of find out where everybody's at head-wise as far as commitment to the team going forward as the one or the two. What do you think of that approach? And how do you think Trey would handle it? How do you think his handlers would handle it if he finds himself again not playing this season?
Yeah, I mean, I don't anticipate an issue from him. I mean, that's sort of both of their strengths. They first of all, they really like each other, and I know that every
Brock
kind
and
of
Trey.
quarterback duo says that about their competition, but it's absolutely legitimate when it comes to Lance and Purdy. They're very similar. They similar religious background. Um, very strong family structure. They became friends in the off season and close friends. So I don't think that would happen. The other part about Trey Lance is he's only, what is he, 22 years old, 23 years old. He's got another 15 years in the league. It doesn't have to happen now for him. You're right. How the handlers influence him, how the agency, creative artists, CAA, big time agency. I would I would think that they would see it the same way. That okay, patience is a virtue in this case. He's going to have a shot with this team. I mean, we talk all the time about how injured Jimmy Garoppolo was. Well, the other two guys have been just as injured in the short amount of reps that they've gotten as Garoppolo's been. I mean, Brock Purdy, what was it? The second game, he hurts his ribs and his oblique, and then he has this elbow in the eighth game. Trey Lance, the track record's even worse. So good chance that both of these guys play, no matter who the starter is to begin the season or who the starter is to begin training camp.
Gammon says, Matt Barrows, you've covered the Niners more than some fans have ever lived.
It's true.
For how long will you continue doing this? What? Somebody wants a gig with the Athletic. On the job for the Athletic, what has your experience been like? Thank you. Look at Cameron Brown peeling as Harbaugh would say. I don't want to peel the
this
onion.
This is the guy that I thought this guy just logged off.
I think he was just joking. I think he was joking.
Yeah, I have been doing it a long time. The beauty of the NFL, though, is that there's this sea change every offseason. So you're really not kind of you're covering the same team, obviously, and a lot of the same players, but there's so much new blood from year to year. Coaching staff-wise, we're seeing that happen now. Player-wise, that it's really kind of each season, and I know this is cliche, but it has a really its own personality. So that's what keeps me going. This will be my 21st season of covering the 49ers. So I've seen Super Bowl teams, and I've seen a lot of 2-14 teams too. So it runs the gamut.
Gizmo Maltese says, I don't get the trade talk. We need minimum 3 quarterbacks. And we get MF saying trade Trey to Rand Carthon. I'm just looking at it as the Niners. It works for the Niners. They got 2 guys on a rookie contract. It really works. It works great. But if one guy is going to upset everything in October by saying, hey, I didn't win the starting job, now get me out of here. I mean, if I'm John Lynch, I'm just saying I want to know that ahead of time. And if that is the direction, I would at least listen to offers. who would you think is the ideal third quarterback to put? First of all, do they need a better third quarterback than what they had last year? And do you think they'll change the rules to make that third quarterback potentially, more usable on game day? And if you could pick a third quarterback to go with Trey and Brock, knowing what you know about those guys, who fits the bill? Who's a name that you think fits?
Yeah, I mean, I said Dalton, and I know that's almost a punchline, but that name fits to me. I mean, I think that's the type of guy who's played a lot, a guy who can share his knowledge with a couple of 22-year-olds. Jacoby Brissett would fit that as well. Those are the two that jump out to me. I wonder whether Brissett would be a little bit too expensive, whether he would have other teams really kind of looking to sign him. But it's that guys that have started lots of games that no team is going to hand the starting job to, but who see a possibility to get a lot of starts. And if I'm looking at the 49ers, I say, oh boy, there's a strong possibility that I get on the field and kind of get to show off my wares, just given their injury history. And yeah, I think that third quarterback rule, boy. And it's not just the 49ers fans who kind of suffered through it, but one of the marquee games of the NFL season is unwatchable, basically from
Right.
the middle of the first quarter on, because the team runs out of quarterback. I mean, it's become a punchline. We saw. What's her name? Kelly Clarkson make a joke about it during the NFL Honors Awards, where she said, "Oh, I thought you're supposed to have a quarterback for the whole game. I didn't realize that you could play a full game without one." So it became a punchline nationally. So it's something that they absolutely. I don't know why it changed in the first place. For sure, you need to have that third quarterback just so that you don't get another scenario where one team is just in a boxing match without any arms.
Yeah. I mean, I got to think they would have made more money with better ratings if they had a quarterback in there instead of.
It would have been a fantastic game for
Right.
sure. I don't know if the 49ers would have won. They thought that they would have this, that, and the other. I just know that it would have been a fantastic NFC Championship game, and it wasn't. It was a sorry one. That's, I don't know. I don't understand the rationale for changing that rule. I mean, is it so bad that you had to only have two quarterbacks for a game? I don't get it.
It's funny that people in the chat on our Krueger Show YouTube channel are some of the smartest people, and we've got people, or they think like I think, so that's why they're following me. MF says Jake Haener out of Fresno State, Julie Haener's son. That name I really like, and then he was the MVP of the Senior Bowl, and watching him throw, he's got a little bit more arm than you would think, and he is only about 6 feet. I think he would be a really nice pick. And this is interesting. Lee says Marcus Mariota. What do you guys think of Marcus Mariota? Well, I'll say if it was just based on the way he played against the 49ers this year, come on down, because I think Marcus Mariota to me, if I were Kyle Shanahan and I was doing my exit interview on the season with Trey Lance, I'd say, Trey, here's the Atlanta film. They beat us, and Marcus Mariota played exactly how I want you to play. And go check it out, study it, watch it, and come back looking like that. Because I thought Mariota put a ton of pressure on the 49ers in a lot of short yardage situations. Where's the ball? Who has it? Does he have it? Can you stop him? They had a nightmarish day trying to defend him, and I think he completed like 80% of his passes. What's his situation? He's not a free agent, right? They'd have to trade for him, or what? What's Mariota's deal?
I'm not sure. I don't remember seeing his name on any of these kind of quarterback lists. That was the game that Nick Bosa didn't play.
Right.
There were some injuries in that one, so it wasn't exactly Mariota going up against the A team defense that day. But you're right. I mean, it was a fantastic game for him. He's very efficient in that game. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a quarterback who's going to be like Lance, that would fit the bill. I mean, as far as Haener, I mean, I feel like every team is going to be looking at Haener now because of Purdy.
Right.
Purdy made a lot of average sized, average arm quarterbacks a lot of money this season. So I think there's going to be a lot of teams that are kind of retracing the steps. Okay, what exactly was it that we missed on Brock Purdy, and how do we find our own Brock Purdy? Because that's the dream, is that you bring a guy in the 5th, 6th, 7th round, you pay him peanuts, and you count on him to win a couple of key games for you down the stretch. So the 49ers kind of know the formula, but I think a lot of teams will be catching on that as well. It'll be interesting to see what round Haener goes in, whether it's dramatically higher than end of the 7th like it was for Purdy, because they are very similar. I was actually talking to a scout yesterday, and he said, same guy. Haener and Purdy are the same guy, and that's what's going to make Haener very, very attractive in April.
The NFL is such a copycat league. What if Haener goes late first? What if he just, people just fall so in love with him, decide he's Brock Purdy, believe it, and then are like, yeah, late first.